Hi, everybody. Welcome to another terrible podcast by Comics. I'm your host, Eerie Diamond. Hi, guys. Good to see you. Welcome our guests, Myles Weber and Heather Weber. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hello. Good. Doing good. Good to be here.
Deneen. How are you? Deneen is my unofficial co-host. She has really, really good insight, and so I love having her on the show. So let's get started. Heather, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Heather Weber. I'm Myles's wife.
What?
I know, weird.
I thought you were his sister. Ew,
right?
Weird.
This would make this whole pregnancy thing way more weird.
More concerning about the baby on the way.
Right. But yeah, I've been in the fitness industry for almost 14 years. So I'm a personal trainer, massage therapist, and nutritionist. And I help him write with comedy.
Yes.
Isn't it nice when you have a funny partner that helps you? Yeah, there's nothing better than that.
Absolutely.
It's just how you're like, oh, that's a bit like.
Oh yeah, he'll always we do the Marco Polo app, and so the other night he marked me and he's like, hey, I have this premise, where can I go with it? And so we're talking it out. So yeah.
Yeah. It worked. So yeah.
I know. I stole some of my favorite bits. Oh wait, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. No, there was a time we were watching Harry Potter, and at the end of the Harry Potter, we were accidentally watching a marathon. It was an accident, and we just couldn't get up. It was weird. It doesn't make sense. And at the end of it, Dumbledore comes in and he's like, "I didn't mean to put you in danger, Harry." And then I hear from the other room, Grimes go, "You say that every fucking movie," and I'm like, "Oh, that's a bit."
There you go.
There you go, right? It's good to have funny partners when you're a comedian. Myles, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
I'm a stand-up comedian, have been for 13 years now, and that's how we met is through stand-up comedy. Yes, about 11 years ago.
Sorry, you're gonna have to tell me that story. I want to know that story real quick, please.
Oh God, yeah. No, we met 11 years ago. A mutual friend was doing his first comedy set in the main room of our home club in Northern California back in the day. And so she came with her boyfriend at the time. And I also was involved with somebody, but she wasn't with me that night. But I remember seeing her and being like, oh man, that's wild. And I was like, I got to figure out what to say to her. And so I tried to buy time. So I bent down to tie my shoe to buy time, but my shoe was tied. So I untied it so I could retie it again, give myself a little bit extra time. And then I went over and we started talking about wrestling because she was trying out for WWE at the time for Tough Enough. And so, yeah, we talked about wrestling and that was pretty wild. And so, her boyfriend didn't seem to like me very much. And and so then we kind of kept in touch a lot while she lived in Washington for a few years and then came back to it and then started dating. And so, yeah, we've been together for 8 years now, almost 9 coming up on. So, yeah. So that's comedy brought us together. Yep. And that's what I've been doing for, a long time now. So it's weird to say 13 years. So, yeah. But, yeah, that's who I am.
Heather, were you kind of a chuckle fucker? Do you know what those are? Chuckle fucker?
No, it was my first ever comedy show when my friend started doing comedy.
Yeah. So you ever heard that term?
No, I've heard it.
She hasn't.
Oh,
yeah. Chuckle fucker, people who really like they're comedy groupies and they like.
Nope, it was my first one and he won me over. I was able to go to his first recording for his first special, his roast that he had way too early. And so so he was my first introduction to comedy. And when we first started dating, we did a road trip to Idaho and we drove from California to Idaho and back. And I just picked his brain on everything comedy. I was just fascinated. I was like, how does this work? Tell me everything. I want to know the ins and outs. And so he just kind of filled me in and I watched the shows that weekend and I was like, oh, I think I kind of get it. So yeah.
Nice. Nice. So you really weren't into stand-up comedy and you ended up, that's so interesting.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Oh yeah, she took to it immediately. She just kind of turned her body the whole 12 hours and was just like, tell me all about it. I was like, all right. And so I almost talked myself hoarse just talking about everything I knew about stand-up comedy at the time. So yeah, and we had a fun weekend. It was good. So yeah, definitely. I was talking to Christian about that weekend.
Oh, nice.
This festival. Well, because I worked with Christian there before.
Yeah.
Before I went with you.
Oh,
That's
nice.
how I knew it was dope. So yeah, we've done a lot of cool shit.
Nice. Nice. Deneen says, so first baby kids. That's interesting that you say that, Deneen. Do you want to tell Deneen what's going on with that situation?
I am pregnant. I'm 22 weeks pregnant. So
yes, first one.
First one.
There we go.
A little boy.
With a little boy.
Yes.
A little boy. So the house will be destroyed. My nephew is 15 months or whatever, and he just destroys everything. You're like, you give him something, he just starts smashing it. You're like, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Yeah. So okay, so and also I do want to talk a little bit about comedy on that particular topic. Myles, you've done comedy for a while and you've had a lot of success, and kind of like tell me why'd you get into it? What the fuck, dude? Like, and then where did it start getting good, and all that good stuff?
I mean, same as every other comic, we're broken humans, so something happened to us in our life that made us have to shine bright with humor, and to kind of persevere as a defense mechanism. And then I was obsessed with it when I was a kid, and so I always thought it was super duper cool and really, really obsessed about it. And when I was 19, started going to open mics and just pissed away my 20s, just in the car with old road dogs, just soaking up all the info and getting up 1.5 million times and going from like side job to side job just to kind of supplement getting by while I was doing this as well, and parting ways with many odd jobs all along the way, and even some places I was at for a couple of weeks at a time every now and then. So I was just moving like a gypsy through life. And then finally I told a story on a storytelling show on MTV what was that, in 2018? 2017, I want to say. Yeah, a few years ago. So that was first thing I did on TV. And then I just had my Dry Bar comedy special come out this past year, and it's doing very well. I think it's gotten like over 6 million views across like all the platforms and everything. So that's doing well. And then now I'm doing pretty decently on TikTok, and I know how to kind of keep that going with the algorithm. So we're just writing a lot. Yeah. And just putting shit out there.
Yeah. So he's recording another special later this year. So
yeah. So I'm just gonna bang out a new one every year, probably in the fall every year, and just all right, rinse, wash, repeat. We'll write another one. And so because
gets bang out a new baby every year in the
absolutely
fall.
Not.
God, that
absolutely
terrifying.
Not. Absolutely not. No, we're gonna probably cut it off at 2. We figured that's what we're both
2
good with.
Doable.
Yeah. We think 2 is manageable. So we're gonna do that. And that's gonna keep us busy. I'll be working less. Usually I've been past few years I've worked over 40 weeks a year, and so I can't do that now with the kid on the way. I want to actually like be a dad and like raise him actually.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm kind of it's this new thing I'm trying to do, like being emotionally and physically available to my child for the first at least 7 years of their life. So we're gonna try and make sure that's what we do. So I'm gonna chop it down to like working 26 weekends a year and just keep it to like a couple days out of the week, so, and then between that and then I'm going to start a nonprofit beginning of next year. It's Green Room Talk, which is affordable virtual counseling for entertainers. So we're going to get that up and running. We're in the process of trying to figure all that out right now. So we could do that from home, and then I'll work every now and then doing stand-up and writing jokes, and then she'll be doing her thing, and then we'll be raising the kid and kind of getting to know him and see what he's all about. And so it's going to be dope.
That sounds great. I mean, it sounds like you have a whole plan, which is weird because you sound oddly together considering you're a comedian, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So when did you actually become full-time comic? That's all I'm doing. That's my money.
Well, it's hard because there was a time when I was in my I was early 20s when we first started dating. I was full-time. And so we moved down to LA and then just did what you're supposed to do, which is just lose everything, absolutely everything. So you hit your nice rock bottom and you got nothing. And so you're trying to sell drugs at the Comedy Store. And then you're like, we should probably move back home.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you just go back one step? Just one step. Then you're trying to sell drugs at the Comedy Store?
Yeah. That's
your...
pretty self-explanatory.
What drugs did you sell? I'm just curious.
Not a lot, because I only sold a little bit, and then I was like, we should probably leave. So it was about like a good week. I moved some illegal drugs from one person to a couple of people, and we happened to meet there. And I was like, this doesn't feel good. I don't like this at all. So,
I'm sure statute of limitations is fine. You can tell it's fine. It's fine. You're gonna be fine. No one watches this. You're safe. Don't worry about it. Oh my God. Names yet? Yes. They do have name. Do you guys want to tell Deneen what the name is? Deneen's she's like your aunt right now.
She is. She is Antonine. Yes, we're gonna name him Robin with a Y.
Yay.
Yes. Absolutely. We already got picked out.
I love that. So that was comedy. And you and Heather helps you write comedy, which I think is really cool. Kind of cheating a little bit, but that's okay.
I do it for other comics too. It's not just him.
Oh, good. Maybe I'll hit you up because
it's just a matter of what comics are willing to take like tags and jokes from me because I'm not a comedian. So there's been plenty of times that I've been shot down, and I'm like, okay, well. But who knows? They probably said that to my face and then still took the joke and ran with it, and I'll never know. So
right.
Oh yeah. Comedians are terrible people. I'm not sure if you're aware. It's not. They're not good people. Myles is actually one of the nicer comedians that I know. He is. And I've never actually met him in person, which is interesting because I go to Vegas. I go to Vegas every other month to visit my family. So.
Hit us up.
Yeah, you got to hit us up if we're in town. Yeah. She'll at least be here. Yeah,
I'm here. Yeah.
Honestly, it seems really weird that I've never met you guys, but that's okay. So let's talk a little bit about your podcast.
Yes.
Heather, you want to kind of tell us like what it's about, why you started it, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So it's called the Mental Awareness Discussion. So the M.A.D podcast. We started it because mental health is something very near and dear to our hearts. Yeah. I struggle with bipolar 1. So we've kind of gone through that the past 5 years almost.
Yeah.
Just about 5 years I got diagnosed, and it's been a roller coaster. And then because of that, I've, gone to therapy, but I've met other people that are struggling with other mental illnesses. And there's just such a stigma when it comes to it. And there's not enough information about it. And so ours, I really enjoy because we take a mental illness and we talk about that. We bring on somebody who has it. We bring on somebody that's close to somebody who has it. We bring on a health professional, and then we talk about how that mental illness is publicized in the media. So we just kind of break it down from every angle. And I feel like so far we've been getting a lot of really good feedback. It's been really helpful for people and hopefully just keeps growing. So yeah.
Nice. Can you, bipolar 1, can you tell me kind of what that is and what that's like? And
for sure. Yeah. So you have bipolar 1, bipolar 2, bipolar 1, you have something called more manic episodes. So manic episodes, some people think are really fun because you can go long times without sleeping. But you have very grandiose thoughts about yourself. So essentially think of Kanye when he thinks he's Jesus. So you have those type of thoughts. Nobody can touch you. You're the shit. You're the best. But then with that, you don't care about anybody else's feelings. And so you just become very self-absorbed. You do your own thing. But then with that, you end up crashing really, really hard and you go into a deep depression. So bipolar 1, you have more manic episodes than depressive episodes. And then bipolar 2, you have hypomanic, which is just not quite as manic, and more depressive episodes. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind. It took me almost 2 years to find the right medications to quote unquote somewhat level me out. But my psychiatrist did the wrong thing and put me on antidepressants first. And when you put somebody with bipolar on antidepressants, you take out the low. So all you have is high. Sense. Yeah. And so they had me on that for 6 months. Because even when I checked in, I was like, hey, this doesn't feel right. I'm kind of ruining my marriage right now. And they're like, oh, well, it takes a while to level out and get in your system and it'll be fine. And so 6 months later, they took me off and finally put me on the right, on the right path to medications. But it took about 2 years to find the right meds, the right doses. And I was very lucky that he stuck by my side through all of it. So.
Wow. Hung tough. Yeah. It was a process when they kept changing the meds. Like we were relieved at first, but then just like finding the right cocktail, she would kind of change with the meds. And it was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. But when we finally landed on it, it was like, hey, welcome back. Good to have you here. We can move forward now. Let's rock and roll. So yeah, it was definitely a wild ride, but we got through it. And I mean, I think it was important. It was important to go through because I think it really kind of was a catalyst to getting us more educated about mental health in the first place. I didn't know anything about bipolar disorder. I mean, then we got married and then she got diagnosed right after we got married. And so we're kind of, we're in it. Like we're all right. We're locked in legal with this. And so let's make it happen, man. I gotta educate myself and get to know what it is. And then also like seeing it firsthand and trying to go through trial and error of how you could be there for somebody who's going through such a hard time that's kind of out of their control. So yeah, it was fascinating. It was definitely a rough time, but I mean, it was very, very valuable. We learned a whole lot about ourselves, about the relationship, about mental health just in general. And that's also what, like I said, sparked the curiosity that kind of led us down to like, hey, we should that, and like 2020 doing what 2020 did to a lot of people's mental health, especially in the entertainment industry. We were like, oh, we should probably do something to just like, so there needs to be some place where people can go, oh, I want to know about this. And we're like, oh, we got like 4 episodes on that, and they're like, oh yeah, we want to know what bipolar is like. All right, we got like 5 episodes that are getting ready to drop in the next month and some change, on our network and everything. So yeah, it's all going to be there as a resource. And when we have the mental health professionals on to talk about things, they give little like tips and things like, here's some good different types of cognitive behavioral therapy you could do for certain things, and these are things that help with certain people. This is how you can be there for somebody who's going through this. Like, so yeah, it's really attacking it from all angles, I think, is really going to help educate people, so that way we're trying to get people away from the word crazy. We don't think anybody's crazy. We just think that people need help, or they don't need help yet right now. Yeah. So that's just kind of like the spectrum everybody's just kind of on. But just to become like, it's crazy, that's very dismissive. That's just like, it's not my problem. It's like, well, come on, man, that's your fellow human. They're not having a good time right now. There's probably something going on, so make sure they're okay. So, but yeah, it's all been a long journey that's led us here, and it's pretty dope to reflect on, and we're glad to be doing it.
Okay, so first of all, first thing I have to say is, Heather, while you were talking, this is Myles on the side, like, ooh, and then ooh. Like, it was. I appreciate it was almost like having the person doing the sign language next to you. It was really interesting. But here's the thing that I want to ask. And I read a really good, I can't remember the name of the book, but I read a really good book about someone who had manic depressive, and she was definitely more on the manic side. And she was describing what it was like. She was describing the fact that it was like, this seems like a great idea. And it wasn't until later on, she was like, what the fuck was I doing? Why did I do that? And yeah. She even describes, sometimes she misses it, that excitement, that thing was like almost exciting to her. It's like she doesn't get that high anymore on whatever that was, and she almost misses it. I'm curious, have you ever had those thoughts, like where you're almost missing it, but then you're like, but I feel so much better now.
Sure. I mean, you miss the parts of you get so much done, in such a short amount of time. You get so much done. And especially like there was parts when I was in school, when I was in college, I would somehow, and now looking back, I'm like, I don't know how I did it. I juggled a full-time job and I would juggle about 12 to 16 units in college. And I'm just like, well,
and we would still do
and I would still like go with him to shows and stuff. So I was still able to figure it out and pass all my classes. And so there's like that aspect that I'm like, oh, I feel like a lot of that was, manic. So yeah, there's definitely you're chasing this high, but it's just like, okay, well, at what risk? Like I've been very lucky that mine has never affected my work. I've always been able to go to work, put a smile on, get everything done, be the best that I possibly can be. But I would notice like my friendships, my relationships would suffer. So it's like, at what cost am I chasing this high? But I've even, like alcohol is really bad for people with bipolar.
Oh yeah.
But there was times that I'm like, well, a drink won't hurt. And a drink like would give me like a manic buzz, but not like set to like all full mania where I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend it. I just somehow I could figure out how to control it a little bit more. So
yeah. Did you know something was wrong, or was this just like how you were, and that's just what this is just how I lived, and this is just, I mean, did you notice? Did other people notice? Because you said you only got diagnosed a little bit ago, right? A couple of years ago. So I'm just curious. Were you thinking this was normal, or were you thinking this is just how I am, or were you?
I didn't talk to a lot of people about it, but I'd have like racing thoughts. I'd have like just all these different like grandiose thoughts when I was manic, but I wouldn't tell anybody about it. I wouldn't act on much of it, and I would just kind of keep it in. But the more that I was doing research, I was like, okay, I need to like go talk to somebody. Yeah. And so I talked to a psychiatrist and they diagnosed me, and I'm like, oh. And then the more I was learning about bipolar, I could go back and like my relationship in my teens, I was like, oh, this was mania. This was mania. This was mania in my last relationship, and just go through. And a lot of it I learned was trauma-based, and I have a lot of trauma in my life. And so there was also just a lot with that, like the relationship that I was in when I was a teenager was extremely traumatic. And I feel like that ended up just kind of gaining momentum when it came to manic episodes because of it. So like when bad things happen, I wouldn't get too depressed about it, but it would just kind of leave me craving another high. So it was, once I figured it out, I could fill in the blanks of like, oh, my life makes so much sense now.
Wow. That's, I find, I
get it.
No. I like I said, after I read that book about somebody who had this kind of manic depressive and more on the mania side, it was so interesting to me that, you just, I mean, I have ADHD, but whatever, everybody has that. But like, it's a thing where it's like, for me anyway, where it's like, people use it as an excuse. I'm like, fuck you don't use it as an excuse. You figure out how to deal with it. You figure out how to live. You figure out how to actually use it to your advantage. And, and I feel like then when people use it as an excuse, like it's such a bad thing, I'm like, well, you're just not working with it. You're just not figuring it out. You're not figuring out what's working for you. And then it makes you realize, wait, I've been like this the whole time. I've been using this to my advantage. And it's how do I say it sounds like what you were doing is you were using it to your advantage. You were almost enjoying it. You know what I mean? But it was fucking up your life at the same time. Yeah. And it wasn't for a while that you finally realized what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of people that have lived with certain things for a long time, don't realize that there's a better way. There's something that's going to make it easier for you.
For
instead of having to struggle so much, you know? So I think that's one of the reasons why I think this podcast that you guys are doing is so it's really important. And I think it's a really easy way for people to see and hear about stuff and like have it, help them out. I mean,
well, people just need to feel like they're not alone. That's the biggest thing. And so I feel like that's why we bring on somebody that has it, but also somebody that's close to somebody that has it. Like, no, you're not alone. Somebody, 2 degrees of separation at least of somebody that knows somebody that has it. So yeah, that's the biggest thing, is we just don't want people to feel alone. So the more people we can have on and stories, and we're trying to make our social media platform more interactive. Just like getting people to talk to each other more. And so just seeing where we can go with that. But yeah, we just don't want people to feel alone.
Yeah, we're trying to build a community where people can kind of come and be like, well, this is my experience. This is my experience. They go, oh yeah, I got that too. It kind of relaxes you a little bit. You can move a little more freely through it all if you feel like it's okay, this is what it is, and this is how this works. Okay, I think my brain will kind of help if I set these boundaries up, and then I can do this with it and everything. Because I have ADD. It used to be ADHD, and then it's been downgraded to ADD, because now at least I've found out a way to, like, I'll start doing a lot of things at once. She'll see. But by the end of the day, they're done. It's all done. I can circle it around where it's like, okay, but used to be just I'd start stuff and then start forgetting things and be like, oh fuck, I started doing that like 2 or 3 days ago. I should probably finish that. And so it was a problem, just forgetting what you're doing just too much. Now I can actually, okay, this is just kind of how I do things. It's in a circle. All right, that worked, because my mind won't do like the do this. It's got to be like little here, little here, little here, little here, and everything. And so that's just kind of having a better understanding of what it is and the ways to move around it, because so that's the big thing. It's just trying to educate people.
I'm old, so you're not old. I am old. And I was diagnosed with hyperactivity, which is what you are when you're old. And they were trying to put me on Ritalin. My mom wouldn't do it. And she told the doctor, the doctor told her she'll grow out of it. And then, of course, I never grew out of it. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And I actually have to force myself to, like, no, I have to finish this. No, I have to finish this. And I actually have to do 3 things at once. I have to have the TV on. I have something else going on my computer, and then I'm working as well. So it's if I don't have a lot of things going on all the time, I can't focus at all. So, which doesn't make any sense. Normal people don't act that way. Normal people don't have the television on in the background when they're doing a report, and then they're also buying stuff on the internet at the same. That's not normal, right?
More common than you think.
Yeah, it's actually good for me though. I like it. I get a lot of stuff done.
There you go. That's all that matters.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But no, and I live with somebody who is schizophrenic, or used to be anyway. So I get the mental illness thing, or it's not even an illness, it's just health. It's like you just have to figure out what your life is going to be. What topics have you covered so far on your show?
So far we've done like 5 episodes on depression, just because that seemed to be the one that casts the biggest net. Like, so it's so common now. Most people have depression. It feels like more people have it than don't in some regard chronically. So we really want to make sure that was our first foot forward. So we did depression, and then we had a couple episodes about anxiety and panic disorder, which I used to suffer from really, really bad. So that was good to talk to a mental health professional about, and then also a friend of ours who has it as well, so we could kind of like, hey, this is what I do. Oh, this is what I do. And we're like, oh, I like that. And so that was good. And then we just started the series on bipolar. So I think we just dropped the one with a mental health professional, and then this upcoming Thursday is ours. She's gonna talk about hers in depth, and more than she's covered today, and then I'll kind of be there to compare notes, like, this is what it was like from my side, and here's what I learned, and here's where I kind of messed up, wish that we would have did this, and so we learned this. And so we go a little bit more in depth with it all, and peel it back. And then we're going to be starting after the next few weeks. So we'll be having more stuff about bipolar 1, bipolar 2, bipolar in the media. and then we're gonna start our next series on OCD. So we're gonna
wow.
Like
yeah,
actual OCD.
like actual
Wow.
real, like, because that's the thing, people with OCD, they like rearrange their drawer or something. They're like, oh, I got OCD, and it's like, that's not what that is.
That's not OCD.
No, it's
No.
if you rearrange your drawer 137 times because you have to before you go to work, otherwise you'll think that your mother's gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, that's OCD.
Right.
It's, and so people don't understand. So we just are trying to like go, hey, this is what it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That brings up an interesting point because of the fact that I agree with you. I think that people throw words around a lot, which I think is weird to me. It's, oh, I can't stay focused, I got ADD.
Yeah.
Really,
Not quite.
is it hard for you to learn because you can't stop your brain? It really, you know what I mean? Like you have trouble sleeping because your brain won't turn off, then maybe you have, it's just, it's a thing. And it's like, oh, I get depressed sometimes, I probably have depression. No, maybe not. Maybe you're just a fucking human, and humans get depressed sometimes. And
people do it with bipolar all the time. They're like, oh, the weather's so bipolar, and I'm like, I don't think you understand how bipolar works.
That you're kind of throwing around something that kind of fucked my life up a little bit. So
if the weather was bipolar, we'd all be dead. Just so you know.
Exactly.
The sun would go hibernate for years and then stay out like Alaska. So
yeah, exactly.
So
and come back with a vengeance.
So I have a quick question for you, Myles. So was it ever weird to you that you noticed that Heather was not sleeping much? And was that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I was one of the first people who was constantly just like, hey man, like, we got to do something probably to slow down. Maybe you'll take one less class. So it was like trying to just compromise, but I mean, just getting through the armor of it. It was just, I don't want to be able to take an inch, So I'd be like, oh, let's do 12 units this semester instead of 16. And she'd be like, all right. But then it was like, there would be more space for all these other things to happen. And so the plate would just keep on getting full. And I was just like, all right, yeah, you really should sleep, man. I feel like you should sleep more than you are, like, because I know how important sleep is and everything. And that was the other thing, is during that time, I then like started listening to a lot of like neuroscientists talk about like the actual, like, this is why you have to sleep and this is what it does. And I was like, oh yeah, no, you should, hey man, you got to sleep, like, come on, like, let's try. And so we tried stuff for a long time, and then finally realizing that there was that, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Because I mean, it would be like, I'd get her to lay down, she'd be like, oh yeah, I slept a couple hours maybe.
Wow.
And that's even if it was like, that was actually how much you slept.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
But it was also hard because I have PTSD, and so that would keep me up at night because I have really bad like night terrors and stuff. So
so it was hard to pinpoint exactly what it was. It could have been so many different things because of so much stuff. And so it was just a lot of like, well, let's try this, okay, well, let's try this, and then this worked a little bit, but let's try something else here. And so it was a process. It took a lot of patience for sure on both of our part. It was absolutely, it was a two-person ride for sure.
Wow. Were you Heather, were you hallucinating at all? Because when you don't hit REM, sometimes you hallucinate. No,
I would never like see anything that wasn't there. I would hear things. So like I would hear voices, and that was like a hard thing to even tell him, because I'm like, man, you're gonna think I'm crazy.
It also makes arguments very interesting.
Oh my God.
Because there would be times where I'm just like, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing anymore. What's going on? Why was that what you responded with that? I don't think you understood the question. And it's like, oh, you're fighting a voice in your head right now too.
Yeah.
So you're, and that was, but then that taught us how we have a disagreement with each other and how we have to do it. So, I mean, if we try to cut it off if there's any yelling at all, as soon as which, I mean, we also have a dope dog, like Taz can't take intense emotions. So even if you go, he's like, what's that? Stop, don't do that. Like he doesn't like
intense anger, intense sadness, intense excitement.
Like he just doesn't like it.
Is this a good description of your dog?
Yes. The one with 3 legs. There he goes. So yeah, he doesn't like intense emotion.
He's a 3-legged dog. You should see his Dry Bar. I was one of the millions of people that watched Dry Bar, but
thank you. I appreciate
you're
that.
You're welcome.
But so yeah, he doesn't like intense emotion. So if yelling starts to happen, we kind of have to cut it and just go like, all right, I'm gonna go take a walk. You know, we need to kind of cool down. We'll come back to this later. Are you good? And then we can kind of separate. Because yeah, if it gets to that point, if she's arguing, I can't get through to anything if you got something else going on in your head at the same time. It's pointless. What's the point of me sitting here just screaming war? I'm gonna get angrier at you
because 2 fights, okay?
Yeah, she's having 2 fights now, and that's not right.
You can't have 2 fights. Fuck
exactly.
You.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
Well, and it would get to the point where if like, I mean, not just arguments, but stress in general, when I was battling like a conversation and voices and my mania was so high, I'd just black out. I'd black out. I wouldn't recall like things that happened. There was one time I fainted because things got so bad. So yeah, when it escalates to a certain point, I would like, my body was probably also just shutting down from lack of sleep. And so my body was like, you're done, you're cut off.
Yeah, she would crash. So you really had to monitor, but that's a good thing though. I think like we get too people fight to win, and I think that's messed up. You shouldn't want to fight to win in a relationship, because then that means the other person has to lose, and if you love somebody, you should never want them to feel like a loser. So you really got to stop and go, okay, well, we both of us don't want to be having a disagreement. Like obviously we want to be understood, so like let's stop here, and we got to like sit across from each other, look each other in the eye, and take turns talking to figure this out. But we got to cool down to get to that. So I mean, that was kind of how we learned how to have healthy disagreements. Now if we have a disagreement, it lasts for like a half hour and we're ready to rock and roll. And they're few and far between. But it's like going through that, you had to learn how to not fight first, right? Like, okay, well, this doesn't seem to make much sense if we do this, so let's try this. But then there are also times where like making sure before you separate to take a walk or whatever, being like, are you good? That's important. Because like there were times where she would kind of like have to stop me from going on the walk to get the air. And then I would have to be aware and be like, she's not okay right now. The only reason she's doing this is because she feels like she's a danger to herself. And so I'm just going to hang tough for this one, but we'll just be quiet. I'm just going to be here, but I'm just going to be quiet. We're just not going to talk. We just need to kind of breathe through this for a little while. And so we just kind of sit next to each other and just breathe through it. And then finally we would come down. So really being super aware and kind of removing yourself from the situation and being a spectator of it as it's happening is going to help you kind of navigate through that. And it was a hard time, but man, we rarely ever have a disagreement now. Like we're pretty, like you heard earlier, we're pretty on the same page. Like, yep, this is what it is. We're stoked. Here we go. So, and that's because there were times when it wasn't. And so, we just tried to pay attention and work together to make it happen.
Honestly, you also have to grow up a little bit. That's another part of it too. I mean, I've been married for 20 years, and Grimes and I've been through a lot, and we had to learn how to fight correctly. You can't be like, fuck you, slam door, leave. You're like, okay, well, where are we with this fight now? Like, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. And that's, you can't do that. Even if you're mad and you got to go to the other room for a minute, and then you got to come back and be like, all right. And there are those times I've noticed being, I'll be on your couples show if you ever want to do a couples show about just how you fight. There are times when you're in the shower going, Lise, I fucking hate you, man. I fucking want to leave so bad. And then it's weird because like 10 minutes later, you're like, what was I thinking? That was so stupid. Like that was nothing. That was dumb. Why was
giving it time?
But if you say it, now you're fucked. You know what I mean? If you say it, if you're like, fuck you, I fucking hate you. Now you gotta back that up, and now you gotta work through whatever you said to somebody. And I think that's a big part of it too. It's like, anyway, we're going off on a totally different tangent.
I think
if you want to know about couples, we've been together forever. And we've learned, and he had to learn not to be like, you know what? now I'm mad, and then storm off. And
well,
then,
yeah,
you know,
that's what it is. You can't
yeah.
unload your anger on another person. It has to come
Mhm.
out in your own way by yourself. There has to be,
Mhm.
you have to know how to deflate it and let it go with yourself and kind of get back to your peace. So that's your responsibility to monitor your anger. You know, it's your karma,
Yep.
not anybody else's. So you got to
Exactly.
monitor it. And so
Exactly.
don't get it on anybody else. That's the thing. And that's where it's like going, I'm angry, so I'm going to walk this way. Because if I face you right now, it's going to get on you. So I can't have that. So I got to go over here and I'm just going to walk and I'm just going to like, that's just, yeah, you have a little angry fit walk. You stomp a little bit, maybe hit your knee, and then you're just like, ah, okay, deep breaths, we're good. But you can't let it get on anybody.
Right. And then you come back, and by the way, the other thing that I noticed is you got to know why you're fucking mad. That's the other thing that I've noticed too. Out why you're mad, because if you don't figure out, then can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
I'm getting okay, good. I was getting all kinds of weird things. If you don't know why you're mad, why you're really mad, it's usually not about what you think you're mad at.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't squeeze out the sponge and put it on the side of the thing. No, it's really not about the fucking sponge.
No,
it's because
never about the sponge.
You said it 600 times and he just didn't listen to you. And it's like, can you just tell me, can I just know I'm being heard for 1 minute about the sponge? Like, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
sorry,
for sure.
Yeah. Right? Okay.
It's never about the mundane stuff. It's about like, there's a consistency in our relationship where I feel unheard, and that makes me feel crappy because I want to hear you and there's interest there. And as it makes you feel insecure, like, is there not interest there? Is that why you don't want to listen to me? So, I mean, there's a lot of layers subconsciously that if you keep peeling it back, it's like, yeah, man, this is probably where this is coming from. Let's look under the rock here. There's a lot of stuff. But it's never about the sponge. You got to ask like another 5 or 6 questions to get down to, well, no, this has been for a while and I just need to figure out how to vocalize it to you in a way that isn't just this thing.
Yeah. Well, and that was a big issue.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
I was just gonna say that was a big issue before I got diagnosed and when I was going through medications and we would get into arguments. Is half the time I would just be mad because I didn't like what was going on inside my head. Yeah. And I just needed to take it out on somebody because I was frustrated that I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the thing. But also another thing we learned, another pro tip, don't argue next to each other like this, like sitting next to each other. Real talk. If you're sitting like you're in the car or you're at like a movie or whatever, if you argue from your peripheral visions, your brain thinks that you're being attacked. And so it starts to go into fight or flight mode. You have to sit across from each other, shoulders pointed, eyes looking directly, because that's where the trust is. I can see you. I see the whole body, because peripheral vision is like old school caveman protection days. If you feel like you're being attacked from the side, or there's anger coming towards the side, it's going to send your brain into illogical anger mode. And that's what makes it worse. People fighting in the car, wait till you get home.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't know about that. That's really
that's a real good hack right there. And don't fight over text, but for the same reason. Oh,
I know a lot of people that do that.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. No, we don't do that. Really, totally not on my agenda, but that was really good. That was really, if you guys ever do that. Oh, and I do all kinds of things. I have a terrible temper. And so I do things like, I just kind of like, I like to gestate it a little bit and then come back later when I'm not angry and go, remember when this happened? I just want you to know, I kind of felt like kind of messed up about that. And then, so it's more of a talk and less of an argument. But it's really hard for people to do that. You got to be in your 40s. But yeah, you got to be in your 40s to be able to do that shit. And I'm from 2 really angry people. My family is not my biological father, no, but my the dad I grew up with. Really, really bad anger. Anyway, enough about me. How was the pandemic for everybody? That must have been fun. I'm not locked up in here with you. You're locked up in here with me.
Yeah.
Like, was that kind of the feeling?
I mean, it was definitely wild. I mean, for us, it was life-changing. I mean, it really, that first life.
It's okay.
There we go. Yeah, let her out. I know she's coming. It'll be all right.
Is it one of the back legs that's gone? Or
well, no, that was Scrappy. Scrappy just can't be without the other one for a second. So he went outside. Taz is the one with the 3 legs.
Yeah,
Taz has 3 legs, but Scrappy has 4.
Is the tripod, is it 2 on the front? Is it 2 on the front?
1 on the front.
1 on the front, 2 on the back.
What kind of dog or dogs? What breed?
They're both pug mixes. The 3-legged one is a pug boxer mix. And then the other one's a pug chihuahua mix. Okay. And that's why she just won't shut up. It's that chihuahua in her. She's afraid of everything. Yeah.
Chihuahuas are they're just paranoid. You know what I mean?
All the time. They don't trust anything.
What's that?
That's
lamb.
All the time.
Okay. Yeah, so, they can't help it. How was the pandemic? I know that the pandemic was sort of up and down for you guys.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, we were both working so hard, and it just was like looking like we were going to be excruciatingly busy with work for at least 2 or 3 years. Like we were really like, I was rocking and rolling with my career, and then she was just getting ready to be able to kind of go and do a lot of stuff all around the world with all these fighters and working with them and training them and everything. And so it was like we entered the pandemic under like separating, because we're like, we just don't have the time isn't there, like the want's there. Like we loved each other very much, but we were just so, we never kind of got out of the go pacing of like the beginning stages of learning what the bipolar was. And so we just kind of both kept up that rhythm. And even when she leveled out like medication wise and was cool, we still kept that hustle, go pace. And it was just always busy. And so we were just like, hey,
Myles,
maybe we take,
just to interrupt for 1 second. You were keeping up with a bipolar manic person? Are you out of your mind? Like, that's insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't recommend it.
No, that sounds terrible. That's like trying to, like, somebody's on cocaine and you're like, I'm not on cocaine, but I'm with you, honey. Like, that's insane.
I'll just keep drinking water and maybe this will work. Yeah. I'll have some coffee. I could keep up. I could hang.
Oh my God.
It was definitely it was a lot, but I mean it led to me being booked like 45, 46 weeks out of the year, just working, gone. And you got to be there. You know, if you want to have, you can't just have this rent-a-family at home, you know, I mean, you have to actually be around. It's very, very important. And so we were like, well, maybe we just take a couple of years, we give it a good push and see like what happens. So let's just agree to separate for now. And then we'll see how we feel on the other side of 2 years. Who knows where life takes us. And then 1 week later, national emergency lockdown. And we're like, oh, okay. Hi. Hello. Okay. Well, it's only gonna be a couple weeks. We'll see what happens. And then it's only gonna be a couple weeks. And then it's only gonna be a couple weeks. So it was hard the first like few months, first 4 or 5 months of the pandemic, we were separated. And so we just kind of like kept our separate space. But we also had a lot of conversations that we should have had during the relationship. Like, you know, things were now, you know, the inhibitions are lowered. We're kind of like in the separation and we're here by ourselves. There's no one else around. We're like, hey, we can finally have the honest conversation. What else do we have to lose? And so then we have that necessary, truthful, honest conversation. Go, oh man, I didn't know you felt that way. Oh man, that's wild. Well, I know you felt that way. Well, shit, what are we doing here? And so then it kind of became, and then people were really just like, yeah, you guys were always dope. And you always kind of gave us a pep in our step and everything. And we're like, yeah, man, that's how we felt too when we were together, but we just weren't together as much. At the end of the day, we realized that not having enough time with each other seemed to be a very bad reason to not try. Like that, if you one thing, if we didn't like each other or somebody did something or cheated or whatever, like, you know, whatever, that makes sense, I guess, maybe for certain people. But we were like, yeah, no, this doesn't taste right for it to be like, oh, we just don't have enough time. Well, let's make time. What does that look like? So for me, not doing stand-up for like 3 months was very therapeutic, because I was like, oh, I can just put this down and pick it back up, and it's like riding a bike, and I'll be fine. Oh, okay. Then, all right, now I think I can reduce the amount of time I'm working actually and be home more.
He sat down one day and he was just like, I lost you and I lost comedy at the same time, and you're the thing I miss. And I was just like, great.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to focus on and you want to, you know, shorten tours and everything like that, then yeah, let's work on this. So
yeah. So yeah, that's where, like, right now I got the rest of this year booked, but we agreed, you know, as soon as December hits, when the kids right around the corner, I'm going to take, you know, the first good chunk of next year off, and then it's going to be that slow introductory schedule of like a couple days here, but we're just popping back out and coming right back, and the bulk of it's home and everything. And so yeah, and that's something that I'm not begrudgingly entering, you know. I mean, I feel like some comics could kind of do this and there's a little bit of resentment, and they're just like, but I wish I could do my thing. I'm like, hey man, I love all of this. I love the balance. I can go out and feel fulfilled doing stand-up and making people laugh, you know, half the year, and feel fulfilled having a family that I can like be around for the rest of the year as much as I can. And when they could come along as they get older, that'll be dope too. So yeah, we really, what the plan we've got laid out in front of us, we're like, oh, this is totally doable. You know, it's going to be a lot, but it's totally doable. Let's make it happen. So yeah, we're both excited because we landed this way, but it wouldn't have happened if the pandemic didn't hit, because then we would have separated,
right?
And she would have gone all around the world and done her things with her fighters for 2 years, and I would have just toured all over the world and just been, who knows if we would have come back. So I mean, we very much so agreed, oh yeah, the pandemic is what stopped that from happening, and then brought it back home.
Okay, don't you think that's like, it's kind of crazy?
Yeah.
I think that was by design. I think like everybody was we were all moving so quick, and we all were just going. And when we stopped, we all had to kind of like lock in with each other and be like, oh, this is dope. Like community, family, the inner love of like a small community of people who you really care about. Yeah, no, this is what makes me happy. When I think about think of a happy memory. Oh, I was with my friends and my wife, and we were at a party, or we were at a bar, or we were at a club, and we were just laughing and dancing. That's usually roughly kind of a memory that people make happy. And it's like, yeah, nobody's like, oh, I was working and it was like my 10th hour.
Let's get my work on.
Man, like,
I agree.
That's not the juice. So I think we all kind of stopped and looked, and you see that now. A lot of people are quitting their jobs and trying to be more self-sufficient and do more things that make them happy and be around people they love more. And so, yeah, I think by design, that's what was supposed to happen. And it's always fun watching governments freak out because people are just like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. And they're like, but you have to. We're like, we really don't.
Oh my God. Yeah, and I do know what you mean, because when I feel most grounded when Grimes and I are just like having a conversation, you know what I mean? Just fucking shooting the shit about, like, I heard about, you know, sheep that pass out when you hear loud noise. Isn't that fucking crazy? Like, you know, just like that kind of shit. Like, just like, you know, and I think that when you have that and then you're like, I'm grounded. But then when you don't have that for a long time, you start to kind of feel like you pull apart a little bit. And those times are the things that connect you, you know, the laughing and the right and all that. That's I mean, yeah. And I totally understand what you're talking about. And I do want to hear a little bit, Heather, really quick. I mean, we got about 8 minutes, but what the fuck? What was your job? Like, you were gonna go work with what, MMA fighters or something? Like what?
Yeah, so so I do massage, and I also do strength and conditioning. But I had just last year, beginning of 2020, I ended up helping out with Tyson Fury's fight camp against Deontay Wilder. So he's a boxer. And I ended up befriending Tyson's nutritionist, and he believed in me so much and wanted to take me under his wing, and he trained me, got me certified. And the plan is he was just going to send me for 6 to 8 weeks at a time, and I would just go stay with fighters or get a hotel and go over to their house and cook for them and do their weight cuts and get them on weight, get in there, and then go on to the next one.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
cool.
Yeah, you could still, I mean, there's plenty of fighters in Vegas. Just do it. Get yourself a backpack with the baby and just, there you go.
Right.
Like,
well, I'm kind of like
just a little baby in the front. You're like, don't mind them.
Oh yeah. Well, she's kind of refocusing now. She's pivoting.
That's cool.
With his nonprofit that he's starting and doing the counseling for entertainers, I want to get my life coaching certification, and I want to help be a part of that. I mean, I enjoy it. Part of personal training in even massage therapy, you're a therapist for somebody. Like you're around somebody for an hour to 90 minutes a couple times a week, and you hear everything, all the stuff that you don't even want to hear. And so, but I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I enjoyed helping people. I've been through some shit. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm gearing more towards, is just doing more life coaching. Later on, I'm thinking about working with toddlers for like a different type of education, but that'll be when Robin's a little bit older. So
yeah.
Aww. I love that. I just, not to, but I've been in sales my whole life, and yeah, I was 1 year old and I was selling things. That sounds really fucking stupid. I was no, but I've been in sales. My adult career has been in sales, and I was makeup artist for many years, because I'm super old, and I'm 300, and that was one of the things. I would do their makeup, and they would tell me all kinds of stuff, and it was really interesting. I mean, I think that's when I really got into this whole thing about, I love interviewing people and finding out about them. And
for sure.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to me when you got strangers and they're just like, yeah, and you know what else? And you're like, yeah, man, I hear you, like it's that whole thing. And I find that really interesting.
Well, and people just, something about me, people just enjoy telling me everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
I don't know what it is, and I'm fine with it. I'm not complaining, but like he'll ask like how a hangout with somebody went, and I'll be like, oh, I learned about this and this and this and this. And like, I just told you all that. I was like, yeah, I just asked them how their day's going.
Isn't it weird? No, people don't feel that way with me, but I just kind of pull it out of them. So it's fine. It's fine. So what's next? I think you guys already kind of told me what's next. I kind of feel stupid asking you that question, but that was on the agenda.
I mean,
baby. So
I got
nonprofit.
I'm doing a bunch of shows in Northern California all throughout September, and then I got my last couple rounds of cruises that I'm doing. I'm doing a couple in October and then November, and then once mid-November hits, I'm here. I'm home. I'm gonna be just hanging out with her, waiting for water to spring out. Just like, all right, let's go. Grab the bag. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, throw some towels on the floor. You know what I mean? Just depends.
So what's going to be the ETA for the birth date, for the baby's birthday?
Christmas Eve.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Capricorn.
Right? Yeah.
I'm a January Capricorn, but
oh, nice. Right on. Yeah. No, that'll be good. That'll be a good balance. At first, I was like, I'd be dope if he was early and he was another Sagittarius. But then I was like, nah, man.
Are you a Sag?
I'm a Sag. Yeah, that's why I can't stay nowhere.
Grimes is a Sag too. They're
Yeah.
yeah.
And so is Chelsea. So like I'm just
Yeah.
surrounded by a Sagittarius.
Yeah. So I was like, give her some normalcy. Give her.
What are you,
Capricorn.
Heather? This
I'm
podcast
a
is
Virgo.
going. Oh,
Oh, my brother is too, Virgo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Oh.
birthday's next
Wow.
weekend.
Yeah.
Wow. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Bipolar manic as a Virgo? How many lists did you have in your house? You must have had legal pads with lists like all fucking day long. Like that's insane.
I think we own like 6 wipe off boards.
Yeah.
And one is
Yeah.
like the size of a wall and it's a calendar.
Bam!
And
I guessed it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what just happened.
There's like some things about me that are not very organized, but as far as like planning and needing to know when things are happening and where he's going to be and where I'm going to be.
We have a series of calendars.
Yeah.
There's a chalkboard calendar, there's a whiteboard calendar, there's a paper calendar, then there's a calendar that we just use for the dates and we don't look at the things. So yeah, no, there's a series of calendars.
Okay. I'm a Libra. We're not organized, but because I have the ADD, I gotta have so many. I have a 5-year actual work, like an actual book calendar that everything is written in.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have 5 years, and I have many of these all over my house.
Yep.
Some of them are for comedy. Some of them are for just things I need to get done. This was the match game that I wrote yesterday. And yes, and if I don't do that, I blow my mind because I can't focus on.
Yep.
I'm trying not to say fuck as much. I'm sorry. Effing anything. I've been saying fuck too much. Have you guys had that problem ever? The fuck thing?
Yeah.
He says it a lot.
Yeah, I say it a lot.
Really
I'm trying
hard
to taper it
not
down a
to.
little bit too. I'm trying to be more like selective where I place my fucks.
More dry bar, right?
Yeah.
Dry
Well,
bar.
yeah. Well, I like dropping one fuck in an hour. You know, if I'm doing an hour, so I like being able to pick the right place for the perfect emphasis for it.
Yeah, less fuck bar, more dry bar. I'm trying to get better. It's hard for me because it's like one of my favorite words.
It's a fun word.
It's just I had a very oppressive mom. Go ahead, Denise.
Myles and Heather, is it a podcast that you guys are? I think I've seen because they know I'm like out there. Find you guys.
Loves podcasts.
I love my comedians, but do you have it like on your Facebook page or do you guys?
Yeah. So if you go to YouTube and also Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you got your podcast streaming on, look for Broken Drift Productions. That is the company that our podcast is under. And on their pages, every Thursday, we hashtag Therapy Thursdays and a new episode goes out. So you can see the video of it we do over Zoom on YouTube, and then the audio is on everything that you can listen to podcasts on.
Okay, great. Sounds so interesting. You guys were great. I wish there had been more people here to.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
This
is awesome.
They'll see it later. I'll post it. They'll see it later.
Yeah.
Yes, in this, Janine, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate it.
She had me down and kill me if I wasn't anyway. So, there's that.
Grimes couldn't be here. He's actually on set right now. So
nice.
But yes, my wonderful husband. I don't know why I'm mentioning it. I just miss him today. Anyways,
I get it.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Nobody should be married as long as we are. We got together when we were 19, so it doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm
straight.
super old.
No, you guys are happy. That's all that matters.
300 years old. So but thank you guys so much for being on the show.
Good show. That was great. You guys are.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
My new loves.
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
Hold on. Here we go. There we go. Thank you so much for being on the show, Heather Weber. And Myles Weber and Robin Weber. A guest appearance. Janine, thank you so much for being on the show. Check out M.A.D. Mental. Say it again. Mental
awareness discussion.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a great show. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Nice
you.
to
for
meet
having
you.
us.
My
Thanks for
dad
having
for
us.
showing up. Bye,
Yeah.
guys.
Bye,
Later.
Eerie's dad. Bye, you guys.